Hello everyone, this is Gunjan again, and let us continue our discussion on the 8th chapter. So in our previous video, we had discussed three important points. We know that air that is surrounding us exerts pressure. We also looked that air always travels from a higher pressure to a lower pressure. And finally, we concluded that when high-speed winds are blowing, that is generally accompanied by a low air pressure. So these were the 3 points that we had discussed in our previous videos. In case you want to recollect or revise those points, I would suggest go back to the previous video and have a look at those points. So today we will be discussing another property of air, that air expands with heat. So let us see how we can prove this point. So let us see what do we have in this experiment. So as seen in this picture, first we'll take a test tube or a simple tube. On the one end of the tube, we'll tie a rubber balloon. આજે એક end છે ત્યાં આપણે રાખ્યો છે એક balloon. Okay? It is a stretchable balloon, so આપણે exact એના mouth પર fix કરી દીધું. Now we'll take this tube into normal water. સૌથી પહેલા આપણે એને normal water માં રાખ્યા. So you will see that balloon તો કોઈ air આપણે feel નથી કરેલી, so there will be no air inside this balloon, and hence you can see the position will be something like this image. Normal water માં આપણે રાખ્યા, you will see that the balloon is એકદમ free balloon છે. There is no air in it, so balloon rests freely on the tube. Now if you take out this tube, as a tube છે, if you take out this tube and put it inside a boiling water, તો કેવું થશે? As you will see in the second picture, since the water is very hot, so what will happen is the air inside the tube also gets expanded. अगर air expand થાય તો can we say that the balloon જે હતો, previous balloon without any air, even in that balloon the air will get expanded? Now if the air gets expanded, clearly the volume of the balloon shall increase. So you can see that in the second image, in this image, where we have kept the tube into a boiling water, the balloon is erect. Right? The balloon here is erect. So this probably proves that air expands on heating, but again we are not sure. So we'll do another experiment. What we'll do is we'll keep the same test tube or the tube into ice cold water. So in the third image, we have a beaker filled with ice cold water and we immersed the test tube into that beaker. So as we might have expected, if मैं heat આપી તો balloon ने air expand થઈ, but अगर હું એને cold આપું તો શું થવું જોઈએ? The balloon will get shrink because the air gets smaller volume when it is cold. So this proves our point that air expands on heating but contracts on cooling. We can take another such example. Again, this is a fun experiment. So what do we have here is we have a wooden or steel stick or a pipe. You can keep a pipe. Tie this pipe with a small thread. આપણે જે જૂનું ત્રાજુ balance હોય ને એ ફોર્મમાં we have to suspend this. Then put two hooks. On one hook, keep one plastic bag or inverted plastic cup. Do the same thing on the another hook. Now what we have to do is, कोई भी एक plastic bag ने एनी नीचे keep a candle or a burner or heater, whatever you have. You will find that if you start burning the below portion of this paper bag, આપણે એને જલાઈ નથી નાખવાની. We just have to keep a candle below this paper bag. So slowly you will observe that the balance scale goes down on the other side where we do not have a candle, but the bag where we had candle rises up. So what do we conclude? આપણી પાસે જે ત્રાજુ હોય, જે balance હોય, જે old જમાનામાં આપણે વજન કરતા, अगर एक portion नीचे जाए, so what can we say? That is heavier as compared to the other, or the one that goes above is lighter as compared to the other one. So similar thing happens because આપણી પાસે balance છે. So it is a proof that the left side is lighter as compared to the right side. But why does it happen? આવું શું કામ થયું? Let us find out. So what happens is when you put a candle below a paper bag, so what it does is it tries to heat the air. And we just saw that in the case of balloons, if air is heated, it gets expanded. It gets expanded. When something expands, its volume increases. But paper bag no volume to same છે. Right? We have paper bag of the same shape and size. આ બંને paper bags are totally identical. So what will happen if you try to increase the volume? Well, if you try to increase the volume, the amount of air content will get decreased. So the air gets lighter. એ થોડી હલકી થઈ જાય as compared to the other bag. So you can say that if I hit the air will get warmer, but it will also get lighter as compared to other air. So since the same thing occupies more space, we can say that it becomes lighter. આ એક્સપેરિમેન્ટ પરથી કઈ યાદ આવે છે આપણે ભણી ગયા એમાં? In our chapter heat, the fourth chapter, we saw that one of the mode of heat transfer was convection. है ना? कि જ્યારે we took an example of candle, what happens in candle is the heat is transferred from one point to another point. નીચેથી ઉપર air જાય છે. But why? Because the heated air becomes lighter. Since the heated air becomes lighter, it rises up. But એ જેવું up જતી રહે air, સાઈડમાં જે બધી ઠંડી હવા છે એ again પાછી નીચે આવી જશે. And again the air will be cold. So again the candle will heat those new air. Again those air will rise up. Again it will be surrounded with the new cold air, and this process goes on till and the entire surrounding is heated. Hence we can say that heat transferred from the candle to the surrounding atmosphere, and this mode was called convection. In the fourth chapter we studied this. So this is almost similar phenomenon getting here. But during this experiment, we now know that when we heat the air, it expands, number one, plus when we heat the air, it gets lighter as compared to its surrounding. So you might be wondering કે ભાઈ આ બધાથી અમને શું? આમાં આપણું ચેપ્ટર તો હતું સ્ટોર્મ્સ એન્ડ સાયક્લોન્સનું, થંડરસ્ટોર્મ્સનું. એમાં આ બધું ક્યાંથી આવ્યું? આ કન્વેક્શન જે 4th ચેપ્ટરમાં ભણી ગયા એનું અહીંયા આગળ શું ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટેશન છે? બહુ મોટું ઇમ્પ્લિમેન્ટેશન છે. Let us find out what happens. The experiment we just saw is at a very low level. એકદમ નાના experiment આપણે જોયો. What about the entire earth? Let us find out what happens. So this is our earth, and I'm sure you know that we divide the earth in various parts. The center part is called equator. This portion is nothing but called equator. Then as we move towards the north, we have a northern hemisphere. If we move the same way towards the south, we have a southern hemisphere. On reaching the extreme end of our earth, in the north side, we have a north pole. Similarly, on the south, we have a south pole. I'm sure આ બધાને ખબર જ છે. તો પછી આ જે બધી white lines છે એ શું છે? These are nothing but latitudes on our earth. Again, you might have known these latitudes in your geography. So we have 0 degree as our equator. We have a 30-degree line of latitude here. We have a 60-degree of our line here. And finally, we have the North Pole lying at 90 degrees. So what happens is, because of the symmetry of our earth, the equator એટલે જે આ portion છે, this portion, equator 0 degree, gets more heat from the sun. Because of the curve of earth, જ્યારે sun rays આવે છે, suppose this here we have sun, so આ point થી જ્યારે આ બાજુ sun rays આવે છે, so we can see that the equator gets heated up more as compared to the northern or southern hemisphere. આ જે 30 degree ની line છે એના કરતા can I say that 0 degree પર we will have more heat? Yeah, because the sun rays are more nearer to equator as compared to the other hemispheres. So a portion, the equator, is usually more heated, and the common example is if you go in South Africa or Kerala, we see a lot of it. Why? Because the lower portion of India, as you can see in this map, near about Sri Lanka, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, here that is almost very near to the equator. So there is a lot of high temperature there. Here we have South Africa or South America continent. So એ બધા જગ્યાએ કે જ્યાંથી equator pass થાય છે, they receive more heat as compared to the northern and southern hemisphere. So જ્યારે heat વધારે મળે, so we just studied what happens is when there is more heat, the air gets expanded. If the air gets expanded, we also saw that the air gets lighter as compared to the other air. So we can say that equator પરની જે હવા છે એ 30 degrees northern hemisphere 30 degrees southern hemisphere કરતા પાતળી છે. It is lighter as compared to the northern and southern hemisphere to 30 degrees. So what will happen is the air of 30 degrees northern hemisphere and 30 degrees southern hemisphere are heavier. When they are heavier, they have more pressure. Like if something is heavy, it clearly has more pressure. If something is light, it has less pressure. We clearly studied that wind always blows from high pressure to low pressure. So આમાં high pressure ક્યાં છે? તો it is at 30 degrees northern hemisphere. Also I can say that pressure is high at 30 degrees southern hemisphere. So we have this arrow, these pink arrows, which suggest that the air travels from southern hemisphere to equator. Similarly, air travels from 30 degree northern hemisphere towards equator. So because of the same principle that we saw above, the same principle applies on our earth, and hence there are different types of winds blowing throughout the surface of earth. દરેક જગ્યાએ અલગ-અલગ ટાઈપની winds blow થાય છે. We'll study this type of winds in detail. But before we move ahead, a similar thing happens on the North Pole and the South Pole. So what happens is, we know that North Pole and South Poles are very cold. 24 hours, 365 days, they're always covered with snow. આખું વર્ષ તે લોકો બરફથી પથરાયેલા હોય છે. So the North Pole, we can say it's cooler as compared to this 60 degree latitude. As the 60 degree latitude છે, એના કરતા North Pole is more cooler. Similarly, the South Pole is more cooler as compared to the 60 degree south latitude. If something is more cooler, again it will have more pressure. If something is hotter, it will have less pressure. So we can say that again the air blows from North Pole towards 60 degree. Air blows from North Pole towards 60 degree. But the 60 degree, is it cooler to 30 degree or not? 60 degree પરની જે હવા છે, will that be cooler than as compared to 30 degree? Of course, because 30 degree પર વધારે heat આવશે as compared to the 60 degree. So આ જે વચ્ચેના pink arrows છે, એમાં શું suggest કરે છે? That air travels from the 30 degree latitude towards 60 degree latitude. Because the air between this region is lighter as compared to the air on 60 degree latitudes. So આપણા earth પર there are different types of winds throughout the surface of earth based on the pressure. જે જગ્યાએ high pressure હોય, ત્યાંથી the air will flow towards the low pressure. The principle is same, but because of the curved nature of earth, there are different types of winds flowing on different regions of earth. And this situation is called uneven heating between the equators and the pole. We'll be studying what happens when we have uneven heating between land and water. This point we have already covered during the sea breeze and land breeze in the heat chapter again. So now you know the resemblance of the fourth heat chapter to this chapter. So let us see this phenomenon in a bit more detail.